On this episode of AV Week, the head of Samsung has a warrant out for his arrest in South Korea, how that will impact the AV industry. Also looking at how to get IT folks or IT talent into your integration firm, and looking at the popularity of interactive displays. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
AV Week is brought to you by our fine group of underwriters, companies like Atlas IED. This is AV Week, episode 282, recorded Friday, January 20th, 2017. Net profits.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about said news and information, first and foremost, my buddy and pal from the great city of Philadelphia. How are you, Mr. Green?
Good afternoon, Tim. Things are well. The start of a whole new world today, right?
Whole new world. We are recording this on Friday, January 20th, and so as of about 2 hours ago, the United States has a new president, number 45. So
so as they're walking away, they're going to roll right into our podcast, I hope.
Yeah. See, he'll be here in a second, or Mike Pence will, one of the two. I don't know.
Somebody's going to.
Pence is closer to me. I'm in St. Louis, so and the vice president, the now vice president, is from Indiana. So. But John is from a nice company called Advanced AV. Also with us, Hanan from Prime View, the company that gave AVNation a stinking awesome video wall last year at InfoComm. How are you, sir?
Doing great, thank God. I think today definitely trumps yesterday.
Very nice.
I had to throw that in there, right?
You're going to do dad jokes the entire time?
He's been practicing this. He's been practicing this all morning.
He's going to do dad jokes, I'm telling you.
Jeez.
They are going to be putting little Torah scrolls in every door now in the White House. Make sure that Ivanka and son-in-law is ready to pass through.
Practice what they preach.
Well, and here's the thing: if you're not familiar, if a lot of Jewish-owned companies, if you will put the Torah scrolls in the doorways of the institution you're at. So. Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about a couple of things. First and foremost, and holy crap, if you're a stockholder at Samsung, you work for Samsung, a lot of our good friends at Harman now work for Samsung, this is going to be an interesting story. So, early on Monday, a story came down, and it's been evolving ever since then, that one of the vice chairman of Samsung, Mr. Lee, there's a warrant been made for his arrest in South Korea. Long story. It involves the president of South Korea. There's corruption charges. There's all sorts of stuff. A lot of folks that are claiming that not just Mr. Lee, but other people have acted inappropriately with the president of South Korea and her administration, not more in a business sense, bribing allegations and stuff like that. Bottom line is, the vice chairman of Samsung is there's a warrant out for his arrest. Not from a political standpoint, obviously not from a legal standpoint, because that's not this kind of show, and I'm not that smart. But John, from the standpoint of the integrator and sitting here right now, how big of an impact is it if the head of a group and head of a company that you do business with is getting arrested? How big of an impact is that going to have on not just you guys' day-to-day operations, but getting product down the line?
It's an immediate concern, obviously. I mean, that's I'm going to add, unfortunately, a political tone to this. Is that I think that as we go forward, our approach to trade, our approach towards that type of thing, as well as this, is going to have an impact. It could cause disruption. I mean, for good or for bad. I mean, I don't know what they're going to, if our new president wants to put dollars on tariffs or something like that, that's going to cause disruption, because all these companies, and one of the things we are sourced we're Asia sourced. And a lot of the stuff like this, Korea, is China, that type of a thing. So our trade is going to have an impact on this. I tied a story to, again, is what's surprising to me is, they're hunting down Volkswagen executives too. I mean, there's warrants out for arrest for things that are done illegally. It's disruptive. I think that you have to have a wide sourcing for yourselves. But I think the smarter people than us and people are foreseeing this and working that out. Or let's say, I hope they're working it out.
Hanan, PrimeView is
there you go. Yeah.
Well, no, here's the thing. PrimeView is you guys are your manufacturing is in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
You have a fair number of executives in Israel. You're based out of New York. So I'm not going to say that it's the exact replica to Samsung, but you've got an international right here.
It's so when we look at the situation, what's going on, we sort of saw this happening actually a few years ago when his father really, was in a coma and having massive trauma, and he was really brought on to run the company. And still green at the time. We sort of knew this was happening. And the way that we actually found out this was happening is when Samsung, who we actually used to buy raw glass from the semiconductor division years ago, the quality was going down tremendously. And no one notified us about changes that were taking place. But when we had engineers sent on site to one of our largest customers, which is ESPN for SportsCenter, we discovered that the panels that were promised to be 24/7, the specs at 24/7, were actually complete BS. They were rated 24/7, but the specs said, recommend 4 hours downtime per day. Translation, specs are not what they say they are.
Yeah, that's not 24/7.
Correct. So we had to give away hundreds of thousands of dollars of goods for free to one of our largest customers, really, because we promised 24/7 and we had to stand behind our warranty, even though Samsung wasn't.
Absolutely.
And when we looked deeper, and my CEO flew to South Korea to find out what's really going on, we found out that without telling any of their customers, they moved production to China and they moved production to Mexico. And that was something that this guy who's really has a warrant for it, he signed off on. So we're not shocked at all. We actually look at this as a tremendous blessing for PrimeView, because unlike some of the brands, let's say like Planar and NEC and a lot of major companies who are tied to Samsung, when we had that one bad experience, we said, we're done. We're not working with Samsung anymore. And we've seen their quality control go down tremendously on all their glass. So I'm very pleased to actually say that we're not working with Samsung that level. And it's interesting because when the Planar was also acquired by Laird, for example, a lot of people turned to me and said, Fanan, what's that to me for you guys? That's a big Chinese investment bank behind them, essentially. Well, how does that treat you guys? And the first thing my CEO said, we're so excited. When Chinese come to America, try to deal with Americans, it never works. So we were thrilled.
Right. And I would back everything up you said, Hanan. I mean, it's again, if we're reading it in the New York Times, as much as that's a leading edge publication, you probably know before it's published.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you should suffer that pain.
And it's interesting because one of the things that I have reps around the country, dozens of reps that I spend time with, from the Midwest to the West Coast, and I was this week in Atlanta. And everybody I speak to tells me that when companies are acquired by Chinese, the support is never the same as an American-driven company. No one understands support better than American companies. The way we staff up for customer support, for professional services, for pre-sales engineering, that's foreign outside the U.S. It really is. So whenever I hear news like this, whenever I hear news of a Planar being acquired by Laird, I hear from my customers straight up, Hanan, I'm so happy you're here. We want to work with Prime. You don't understand the headaches I had with this Chinese guy and that Chinese guy. They call someone in Shenzhen for 14 hours and they still don't solve the problem because they don't understand in English.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that the distribution channel is if you're already involved in it, you better be having conversations. You should be getting your information from a lot of different locations. I would imagine that half a dozen people that have under contract under Samsung under an OEM agreement are absolutely talking to their lawyers going, this is a perfectly good opportunity for us to end it. And for whatever reason that might be, I mean, that's just the mechanics of it. I mean, again, this is trouble. We've been having trouble. There doesn't have to be this bad feeling thing. It's just like, yeah, we're done because of contract.
To add to a little wrinkle into this as well, I'm sure many of you are aware a few years ago, Sharp was acquired by Foxconn.
Yep.
Not a few years ago. This year, well, last calendar year. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, officially on paper, that's when it started. It
Yes.
started, the guys who involved in the semiconductor side, like my production team and my CEO, they knew about this up before we were there. And the reality is that as technology becomes more consumer facing, the tablets and the smartphones, the reality is these guys are looking at the industry saying, why am I interested in commercial business? And they're putting more of their energy on the Foxcons of the world. So Samsung as well, we have close ties to a lot of development companies within Samsung. And Samsung developers all over the world, I mean, the guys who create some of the best technology out of Israel for Samsung, their entire division was laid off the other week when their stock went 30% dip or whatever it was. And I think it was 32% of their workforce that let go. And this was before even the warrant went out. So
again, and I think that, you know, the other thing is there's just signs. I mean, again, their phone's blowing up. Well, don't overthink it. The screen is just bigger, and that's what I sell. So, I mean, if they've got problems there probably is. There are probably issues. There's warning signs throughout. It's just, you know, again, doing some follow-up and checking out of that type of a thing. You know, it is honorable. Unfortunately, I think that they're coming out and they're addressing it type of a situation. That's a good sign, because that doesn't mean it's rotted all the way through.
Exactly. Yeah. And they have, but yeah, so that they did actually go back and say, you know, we screwed up on the batteries,
Yep.
Recalled them, you know, did their whole thing. It'll be interesting to see how this comes down at the end of it. So, all right, over to our friends over at Commercial Integrator. Quote unquote, IT leaders are gathering at the White House to address the talent gap. This is from our buddy Craig McCormick over at Commercial Integrator. There's a serious problem when it comes to hiring people in IT these days, and Carousel Industries Chief Client Officer Tim Herbert is determined to fix it. Herbert and Carousels are the ones that are over at the White House talking with the new administration about how to honestly how to address the resources and the lack of resources rather to get folks trained in IT. Hanan, you've been around and you mentioned the fact that you were in Atlanta this week meeting with integrators. What are folks doing from a talent standpoint of getting folks up and running and up to speed when it comes to getting folks knowledgeable about how to integrate IT and the AV space?
So it's definitely an interesting time now, because, you know, at the end of the day, while we may be AV centric, while we all may be AV centric at the end of the day, the reality is the end user often don't have a team of AV people. So a big enterprise customer, they may have an AV guy or one or two for a multi-billion-dollar organization, but the real base of support is IT. So what I'm seeing is not even just from the consultant side, but from the integration side as well. Many of the integrators I'm meeting with now are literally acquiring IT companies. Instead of trying to partner with them and saying we can work together, which hasn't worked for the last few years as much as people say it's going to happen, convergence, it's a lot of this. The reality is, for an AV integrator to be successful and for even a manufacturer to be successful, we need to make sure that our resellers and our integrators have IT capabilities. So one of the things that I've seen interesting is that our integrators that we work with on the AV side have said, we have customers that are going to move and are moving towards IT centric. Can PrimeView build in IP control into your display technology? And this is something that we did a year ago, listening to that, the same way we did 6 years ago, or better yet, 7 years ago with HD-based T. So while we had HD-based T 7 years ago and 3 years ago was SDI, now the requests are coming saying, I need IP. I don't want another device. I need that built in, because that's the standard. I require that. And it's interesting to hear that we're really beating at the same beat of our integrators, because our integrators are literally buying IT firms so they can really provide those services. And one integrator I met with the other day actually at CTG based in Atlanta, where historically it's been more arenas and broadcast and house of worship. The AV side is definitely growing for them, no question. But the things that they shared to me is that they acquired an IT firm. And this is really for a good half a dozen integrators I met with actually in Atlanta. They acquired IT guys so that the IT can drive, because the decision makers are IT people. So it's easier to talk IT with IT. And you grow the business and you support the business, but more effectively.
So real quickly, and John, I'll get you on this, but real quickly, Hanan, when you're talking with these integrators, are they giving you any indication, you know, as to why partnering with IT firms hasn't worked out?
It's just two different languages. I mean, I think, I mean, I didn't get a black and white answer, but I didn't really ask the question because I sort of knew the answer. It's essentially like a stepbrother and a stepsister and saying, marry each other. It's two different, it's like putting on two different left shoes. I mean, it doesn't fit. I just don't think AV and IT ultimately seek the same language. I know a lot of people are trying to make it happen, but I think AV needs to be IT-centric because IT ultimately is growing. You know, my brother is an IT manager for a publicly traded company in Israel, and they have offices here in the U.S. And we were joking about it, you know, he supposedly wants to grab onto a global IT director role. And he said, but the American office is like pushing back because he's AV. It's like two different mindsets.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, John, from the integrator standpoint, what are you guys doing to fill this gap and to, you know, bring more IT knowledge to your folks?
I can safely assure you that, you know, again, we were purchased a couple of years ago, and a merger of the companies is probably going to show a roster of easily 1/3 of our employees will be IT.
Wow.
Either in the role that they have or the knowledge that they have. So it to some degree, it's a very similar, as Anand said, is that, you know, there's an acquisition of that knowledge. I also agree that even on the sales side approach, that the way that you sell an IT solution is different than you sell an AV solution. Who you talk to, what you talk to. Again, it's a service because that's an issue as well. I mean, we literally are in the process of trying to hire somebody. They're coming from an IT. We're going to put them on the services side, not on the IT, not on the systems integration side, because they come about it completely differently. They say different things. They enter into different conversations. It's very strange. So it's not just in a technical department that you have to worry. You have to worry throughout your building. You know, you have to explain your billing person. The reason that they're not paying is because IT pays this way. And yeah, you're laughing, but that's the truth. It's like, well, you know, it's like, well, you don't say I want a deposit, I want something else, because that's the term in their language that they go, oh yeah, it's not progress payments, it's called this. So the conversation, again, it hurts my ears every time I have to be involved in it. AVIT, the conversation's over.
Yeah.
Okay. It really is. It's on a network.
You mentioned the fact that a third of your employees are going to be IT. How are you doing that though? Is it training or is it just hiring those folks?
It's acquisition. I mean, it's people in place. It's merging of the companies type of a thing. You know, crossing the platforms across again, because that's why the merger was put together. I mean, we are a little bit of a standout in what we do. They're also a standout on the IT side of things, and just commonality of approaching the customer holistically, or having the ability to do it holistically. I think what's interesting about the article from Commercial Integrator is, you know, I think that IT and this training of IT is the space race that Kennedy talked about. This is our generation's issue. I think that we really need to steer a lot of our educational or apprentice programs, everything in that direction. We don't need more, you know, people to bang out metal. We need to be able to do code. We need to be able to cybersecurity. I mean, I think that's part of it too. I think that we are faced with cybersecurity issues. They're going to really cause issues, business disruptions.
Well, and really quickly on that, before we move on to the last story here, that's a huge thing. And it's something that honestly, the AV folks have not talked about until last year. And I mentioned last year, and my good friends over at AMX will cringe every time I say this, but it happened a year ago. A year ago in January is when the report came out about a couple of products that had some security issues, but it was a great thing to happen because it started a conversation. And we continue to have the conversation. We continue to move it forward. We continue to say, you know what, this is a significant issue. We started a program called ITAV here at AVNation, and one of the programs we did recently talked about how tech managers, how IT managers are onboarding AV products. It was a great conversation because it talked about taking these boxes and putting them on folks' networks for a week or 6 weeks at a time before they're ever integrated into a system, right? So this is how they're safeguarding their own networks, is they're testing them, right? They're taking a control processor, they're taking a DSP that is going to be living on the network, and they put one with the proper programming and stuff on the network, not a part of a system, but just as a test bed to see what sort of security issues there are. And if they find them, they're contacting the manufacturer back and saying, hey, look, there's some issues here. We need you to fix that before this system gets rolled up.
And I'm gonna, again, we've had these conversations. We've had a couple of them. The voice control, the Alexa, the Google at Home. And again, I could talk absurdly because I don't have a technical background. But you and I both agree that voice is probably going to replace in some form or fashion control in a boardroom. Well, I can imagine somebody coming back to us going, yeah, we didn't lock it down and it hurt our employees want pizza and now we have pizza for Tuesday. It works really well and controls the room, but every Tuesday pizza appears too. Or
bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I mean, again, and there was a story a couple of weeks ago or last week where Howard Stern's like sending out his message over the radio and the Alexis's home were literally ordering stuff.
Yeah.
Well, like you laugh about it. Again, you do. I told my wife the story. She goes, "I told
it's Howard Stern."
Well, as you know, she goes, "I told you to get rid of that Google Home," and I said, so there are things that need to be worked out, but it's really tied to security and understanding of what it means to be on a network.
Yeah, it does. All right, last story here, and we'll let you guys get out of here. It's a story that is near and dear to Hanan's heart and both mine too. It's about Sharp, and they did get purchased by Foxconn. They kind of exited the U.S. market, at least on the residential side, but they're coming back with some stuff. And this is about their stand at ISE. They're showing a 70-inch video wall, which is kind of the story, and it's from our friends over at AV Magazine. But half of their stand is going to be interactive displays. It's what they're calling the big, quote unquote, big pad. Hanan, I'm going to pick on you because you guys make some gorgeous displays. But the interactive part, are we entering? And I've made fun of the Microsoft Surface for a long time now. Is that product to the point where folks like Sharp feel like they have to go after it?
I think everybody has to have an interactive play to them, but you better do it, and you better do it well. We walked away from the touch business, I want to say, about 3 years ago, and that was a conscious decision that I made for the Americas from a sales perspective, saying I don't want our guys to sell it because IR touch at the time was not there.
Yeah.
And it was a disaster. I mean, I have customers now, unfortunately, that won't even pick up my phone call because the experience sucked. And it wasn't the product, it was the experience.
Yeah.
Because the world of an iPhone and iPad told you it could work great on a 3-inch, 7, 10-inch display. And then you get to the 70-inch and it's like, that's not really up to par. On a positive side, though, we've been blessed that we have a large OEM customer in the oil and gas industry that we've deployed huge quantities on a yearly basis that force us to develop a projected capacitive touch large format solution that's really bulletproof, tempered glass, IP rating in the front, and it really works well. And it's really a giant iPad. I don't think the Chinese type of run companies, a Sharp, which is really a Foxconn.
Yep.
I don't think it's really about quality. It never has. It never will, in my opinion, unfortunately. I think it's just about it. They want to play in the market, and what they're going to do is they're going to undercut the whole market on price and just say sell, 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 sell. And then when a service issue comes up, like when you take a consumer TV and they put a commercial grade warranty on it, you guys all know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You just give a new one and put a Band-Aid on it. So I think that it's good if you want to just move a lot of boxes, but it's not good for the integrator because, I had a call at the American Airlines lounge on the airport on my way to meet with an integrator in Atlanta, and an engineer said, please tell my manager that when the sales guys design these systems and change order to a more cost-effective solution, on a gross profit level looks great, but on a net margin, it's a disaster. Because that product, yes, rebates help, or spiffs help, but on net profit, they lose money when they have to go back there again and then again and again. So people look at the bait of a very attractive solution and don't think about the net profit for their actual ownership of the integration firm. Unless you get paid on actual profit, not projected as a sales guy. So overall, I think these things in the industry are great. The more people talk about touch, the better, really believe it or not, the more business there is for us because the crappier experience someone else has, the more business we get. we're always known as the expensive guy, and that's great. People will pay for a quality product. So I think they're doing all the marketing for the players that are out there that have quality products. And when you have a crappy experience, you find someone else has a better one, and you're willing to pay more. But overall, I think this is more of a marketing stunt. We'll see if they actually end up producing it. Very often, people see things at trade shows and they go, wow, that's amazing. Can I buy it? No, we're not really producing this. It's just for fun. So it's not going to be 24/7 rated, even if the spec says it is. Look at the warranty documents. I assure you it won't be. And I can say that without a doubt. But I think ultimately it creates a trend of where people are following the trend versus being ahead of the curve, so to speak. So when you're behind on the curve, sometimes when you're late to the game, you could improve the quality, but I don't think that's the case here at all.
All right, John, from your perspective,
I think we're brothers from different mothers. I agree with you completely. I think that's
very possible.
Really, I honestly, I completely and totally agree with you that that's how technology is being promoted these days. I guess my reaction is it doesn't bother me. I mean, if you even look at it on the conferencing side, there was Skype, not even Skype for Business, but I was like, yay, use it. Feel really bad about it. Call me because I have the solution. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that as a big picture. And I think that if Sharp delivers and they even half deliver, we've won a little because they're going to use it. They're going to know, well, I would like to. And if I had, and that's where we fit. And that's where value is added. That's where value is added as a manufacturer and value is added as an integrator. My only funny story, I was actually going to post this in social, was we're talking about, you keep saying iPad and the iPhone is a good touch experience. I've just recently upgraded, and it's not been as friendly as it used to be. Okay?
Oh, no. That does not include firmware updates. Come on.
Well, I'm actually pretty good. I accept those firmware upgrades, even though my IT department says, don't do that. I do it anyway. But example is like I'll grab my phone and I'll touch it, and it's not as, it doesn't do it as good. But magically, if I stick it in my back pocket, it's able to open up my Starbucks app, order a cappuccino with an extra shot, and order from Moscow. And all that happens is a little butt wiggle when that happens. So there's some touch issues all around the board.
You got to try Pilates.
So it's not my phone?
I think he's saying it's your butt, John. That's exactly what I think he's saying. He's just saying. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and get Hanan.
We did come up with the topic, the butt wiggle touch.
Oh, geez, stop it.
Work on it, don't worry.
All right, Hanan from PrimeView, how do people find you, sir?
The best way to find me is on an airplane. But jokes aside, you can definitely hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter. But my office anytime, I'm always available. And 212-730-4905 or at primeview.biz. Easy to get.
All right, thank you, sir. And Mr. Green, thank you, sir. How do people find you? And or
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be the usual. And again, my Twitter handle it shows a little bit, 3 different parts of me. It's my social, my business, and my political. That's at jgreen6. But I'm also going to be doing some traveling. I'm off to a Cisco conference in February, and then the NSCA BLC in March, and then also headed off to Microsoft Inspire.
And then AP, and then Infocom.
Yeah, and then I got Infocom. Right, so I might be on the same airplane as Hanan. Look first, but
most likely. All right, for us and for me, honestly, we ended with the Sharp story because of ISE. We're going to be going to ISE, so honestly, go to the website avnation.tv, avnation.tv. We have a bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline, both for ISE and others. If you're attending the show, we do have a neat little contest that our marketing group came up with called Find AVNation. If you go
not in the red light district, okay?
Do what now?
Not in the red light district.
No, sir. No, I'm not even sure where the red light district is in Amsterdam.
You know where the green light is, right?
Yes, sir.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
My story, and I'm sticking to it. But our booth is in Hall 7, but we'll also be bouncing around different places. We've got 2 different tweet ups. Our friends over at Polycom on Tuesday and HD Base T on Wednesday. We're doing 8 shows, 8 programs during the week. So if you're not going, you can check it out live at 11 Eastern every morning, doing a daily wrap up there. But we're going to be at the Scala booth doing our shows there. All kinds of stuff, and it's all thanks to our wonderful underwriters, companies like Kramer and Control 4 and some others are helping us out in doing that. So, but you'll find all that stuff at AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been AV Week.